And it's time now to move on to our very first panel discussion for the day. The topic for this panel discussion being, is gaming-based education a trend that could be phenomenal in understanding concepts? Kindly note that the panel discussion floor will be open for the Q&A session once the discussion is over. And shortly we will introduce the panelists while the team sets up the stage. National Conference on K-12 Leadership and India School Merit Awards, hosted by Education Today, powered by Unipro. Our gold partners are Sivom, NTAB, Live Life Foundation, TC Global, DAX Inc., Puma, and EdHR. Our associate partners are Ecophon, Yellow Bus Photography, Valid Initiatives, Open Door, Sprouts EduTours, EduSports, and School Ventures. And as you all can see, we are now moving into our first panel discussion for the day. And I would now request Manasvi to please introduce the panelists to you.
Thank you, Rahul. It would be my immense pleasure to do so. Miss Shanthi Menon, Principal, Deens Academy, Bengaluru. The principal founder of Deens Academy, she embodies the spirit of this institution with a chain of schools and colleges spread over East Bangalore. Her passion for education and vast teaching experience put her in a unique position to continually steer Deens to the highest echelons of the educational excellence. An able administrator, her zest towards education and her management skills enable Ms. Shanthi to steer the school towards new horizons. Even as the academic director of the schools, she has developed an indigenous curriculum for life skills, community engagement, and innovation for students of Deens Academy. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you, ma'am, onto the stage.
Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for Ms. Shanthi Menon, Principal, Deens Academy, Bengaluru. She is also the moderator. And moving on, would like to introduce the next panelist, Dr. B. Gayethri Devi, Principal, Little Flower Public School. She has over 30 years of academic and administrative experience in India and abroad with reputed schools, colleges, and universities. She is the principal of Little Flower Public School in Bengaluru, having strength of 2,750 students. She is the standing committee member for the examination for the CISCE board and awarding committee member. Dr. Devi is also the inspector of CISCE school for over 15 years. She is the secretary for the Karnataka Association of ICSE schools, having a membership of over 300 member schools in Karnataka. With a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome on stage Dr. Gayethri Devi.
Next in the panel, we have Mr. Santanu Das, Principal, Sarala Birla Academy. Mr. Santanu Das, Principal, Sarala Birla Academy, did his schooling from St. Joseph's Academy, Dehradun, and has a master's in physics and business administration and diploma in German. He has attended courses at the IIM Kozhikode, Principal's Training Center, London, University of California, Berkeley, Harvard Graduate School of Education, and the Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University. He has been the president of the Karnataka ICSE Schools Association, the vice president of the Indian Association of Adolescent Health, Karnataka, a member of CII National Council of Education, and has worked closely with the Association of Indian Universities, AIU. May I take this opportunity to welcome you, sir, to the dais.
Next up is Mrs. Vandana Arora, Principal, Nahar International School. Vandana Arora is the founder principal of the CAIE affiliated Nahar International School, Powai, Mumbai. An alumni of Lucknow University with over 20 years of teaching and administrative experience, she was the former Joint Secretary of Members of the International Schools Association, which has a membership of 76 top-ranked international schools. Her vision is to make students globally responsible citizens through self-discovery, which is an effort that could be seen in the school's curriculum. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, next we have Dr. Mrs. Lavanya Mithran, Principal Bishop Cotton's Girls' School. She has served as a former member of the Academic Senate of Venkateshwara University. She was the first woman in Andhra Pradesh to acquire a doctorate in the subject of environmental geology. Dr. Mrs. Lavanya Mithran has taken up the mantle of principal at Bishop Cotton's School since January 2015. An educationist and an extremely progressive personality, Dr. Mrs. Mithran endeavors to take Cottons to even greater heights. It's an absolute pleasure, ma'am, for me to welcome you onto the stage. May I call upon Ms. Renita S Mendonca, Principal, Tenbroeck Academy. As a visionary leader, she uplifts both students and staff, transforming her school into a hub of academic excellence and innovation. Ms. Renita's impact extends beyond academics, nurturing compassionate and confident individuals. Her remarkable career has given wings to countless young minds, empowering them to soar to new heights and leave a lasting impact on the world. Her love for children and passion for teaching have inspired students to reach international benchmarks. By fostering creativity, critical thinking, and hands-on experiences, she creates a joyful, dynamic learning environment. Welcome, ma'am, to the dais.
Last but not the least is Aditi Goradia, Managing Director, Billimoria High School. With an aim to overhaul the monotony in the education system, Ms. Aditi graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a degree in Anthropology and Asian Studies, along with a certification from the U-Teach program at the College of Education, UT Austin. An alumna of Billimoria High School herself, she was a youth athlete specializing in track and field as well as basketball. It is her firm belief that schools across the globe must center themselves around the needs of the children, share ideas, and grow collectively. Under her leadership, Billimoria has stepped into the new progressive age of experiential learning. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Over to Ms. Shanthi Menon now to please take forward the panel discussion.
Good morning to all of you. I wish we had a larger audience because it's going to be a certainly invigorating session. Please be seated, panelists, and thank you for being here. As educators, we are at all times exploring ways and means to up our game, isn't it? And that's why we are always at conferences to pick up some new idea, something that's different to improve experiences of students in our schools. So today, the first panel is perfect. The topic being is gaming-based educational trend that could be phenomenal in understanding concepts. Then there are a lot of key words there which we will discuss later. Going on one end, we're all struggling as educators to keep the attention of our children in the classrooms. So many distractions. It could be the child next door, and the latest, of course, the scapegoat is COVID. But on the other end, there's technology making so much of advancement, leaps and bounds, that we educators, smart that we are, thought it best to marry the two, and we have been exploring so much in terms of technology inside our classroom. So the kind of experiences that technology is able to provide to us in terms of real life experiential learning is phenomenal. And that's the reason that classrooms become even more fun and exciting for children. Education should learn from the positive side of gaming, reward, accomplishment, and fun, said computer scientist, entrepreneur, and educator, Sebastian Tran. Well, the key words being reward, accomplishment, and fun. very crucial to today's generation of students. So the panel today will have a lot of perspectives to share, and I'm sure as all of you would be able to decipher what best action that you would like to take after the whole panelist discussion is over. So without much ado, I'd like to hand over to my group of panelists here. I don't know why I'm making them mine, but of course I'd love to be part of this group. I'm here just to moderate how the whole session because we are time limited. We start with Dr. Santanu. Each of our speakers will present a perspective or a short perspective, and then we go on to a few questions that we have predetermined, which we thought would be of interest to all of you educators. And we loved the last session, which would be questions from you to any of the panelists. Over to you, Dr. Santanu. Opening address, please.
Thank you, Ms. Menon. For as long as I can remember, games have been an integral part of our lives. While growing up, I seem to remember a lot of reading and hearing war games, perhaps these days even more so. And then on the other side of the spectrum, from a scientific point of view, if we want to go diametrically opposite, we have heard of the love games that animals and even humans play. And then we have the business games, the corporate games, life games. What I'm trying to emphasize is that games, or gaming, if you will, have been so intimately interwoven with our lives that there is absolutely no reason why gaming-based learning should not yield very significant, if not remarkable results. I've stopped very short of the term phenomenal because I don't much believe in using superlatives, but I think someday we'll probably reach there as well.
Thank you, Mr. Das. I'll move on to Ms. Renita.
Thank you, ma'am. So staying relevant in the ever-evolving higher education landscape involves constantly re-evaluating current learning processes, implementing new strategies to boost a student's learning experience. Gamification, according to me, is a great way of enriching education using components of a widely popular medium. We are all aware that, during the COVID phenomenon, the pandemic, we were forced to go online and we were forced to adjust to what we thought was essentially not quite possible. But we did evolve. Most of us saw to it that our students progressed even in the online medium. So since we are partially there, this would be a great way of complementing traditional methods of imparting education. E-learning can boost overall learning experience in many ways. And like Mr. Shantanu pointed out, games have essentially been a part of our lives from times immemorial. What a great way to actually have gaming tech, which is the way of the future in education. So used in the right manner, gaming can be a challenging and highly productive activity with the power to stimulate learning and cognition. Instead of separating children from technology, we should embrace it, we should blend it with our learning, and combining technology with more traditional forms of education should be the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Renita. May I move on to Ms. Gayethri Devi?
A wonderful good morning to all the panelists and distinguished guests seated here in this conference room. I think right from the Gurukul system, gaming has been a very integral part of a child's growing up years. So here when we're talking about gaming, let's understand that it is, or rather in a school, when we use the terminology, the vocabulary gaming, there are multiple facets to it. One, it could be the gaming processes that we have in our school grounds under the physical education curriculum. The other could be the gaming that children use for fun in varied devices, gadgets that they have. And here today, what we will be discussing is how do we incorporate gaming in our day-to-day teaching learning practices. So how do teachers, how does the school plan gaming sessions which would be more a theme-based approach to the kind of learning that we have in today's learning environment. So we'll take this forward in the couple of minutes to come.
Thank you, Ms. Gayethri Devi. May I move on to Ms. Vandana Arora?
Good morning, everyone. For me, it's very important to look at holistic learning. And when I'm looking at gaming, I would definitely want to say that how we incorporate gaming, keeping in mind the time we devote for it, keeping in mind the people we are all going to be working with, that means the teachers and the parents both. And also keeping in mind that are we looking at gaming to stimulate intellect, or are we looking at gaming to develop better application ability in our children when they'll be able to combine their intellect and their other faculties of mind and body. I think that's something I would be really interested to explore through this discussion. Thank you.
Perfect, absolutely. I think we should be coming back to it in a few minutes now. Ms. Lavanya, may I request you to share a few words? Opening
Good morning.
statement.
Good morning to the panelists. Good morning to the esteemed colleagues, I should say. Thank you, Education Today, for inviting to be part of this panel. For me, gaming starts from home. We start gaming at home only. Maybe the physical education, what it starts in preschool, there it starts with the gaming. See, maybe physically we are allowing the children to be a part of games. Now we have moved on to the gaming in education, which I feel it will be a great motivation for the learners. This is what I feel. Maybe I still want to, even Dr. Gayethri Devi, as she mentioned, that from Gurukul onwards it started, and the physical education classes where our children are so eager every day. So my discussion, my thing will be that gaming is very essential, which will motivate the learners to participate and to develop leadership skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lavanya. So we have set the context. There is a very thin line, as all of the speakers spoke about, games versus gaming. We did start on the playground, and with technological advancement, we moved into gaming, a very small semantical word difference, but we are discussing gaming today, which is technology-based. So my first question to you, Mr. Das, would be, what is the role of gaming in education in your perspective?
Well, all gaming, they're based on certain basic principles. Principles such as gaming should be based on rewards. There has got to be specific time-bound rewards. There should be feedbacks. One very important aspect of gaming should be that it should be easy to learn, but not very easy to master, difficult to master. So there are certain basic principles of gaming, and if these gaming principles can be added and fused with the traditional learning environment, then we can have a very effective way of leveraging a child's imagination. There then we can have a kind of a blended curriculum which would address a specific skill, a specific area of knowledge. The trick, of course, will be how to have these gaming principles incorporated in the learning context. But they would be very effective because how often have we come across a child who faces huge amount of difficulty in, say, multiplying improper fractions. But that same very child perhaps could, at a single seating, very extensively describe very easily how to defeat a video game boss. Surely that same very gaming concept can be incorporated in teaching this child how to multiply improper fractions. Well, Ignacio Estrada it was, I think, who once said, if children don't learn the way we teach, we probably should teach them the way they learn. Gaming-based learning could very well be one of those ways. Have more time, or shall I? we can come back. We can always come back. Thank you, Ms.
You
Menon.
touched upon the right points. Today we have to adapt. We are adapting in any case, starting with all of the technology that we brought into these classrooms, the changes in pedagogy that we have incorporated from what it used to be, at least during our schooling times. I don't know how different it would be with many of you, but say 50 years, 40 years back during our school time to what it is today, it's completely changed. And it all is adaptation from the pedagogical leader in the classrooms, right? And that's exactly what Mr. Das is talking about. He did touch upon very crucial points of rewards and feedback that gaming provides to students. So critical for children, for them to move forward. Children today are very particular about instant feedback and of course reward which comes with it. So and one of the other points that he did talk about is it triggers imagination of the children, and at the end of it, we are looking at creative thinking, we are looking at design thinking, etc. in students in the long run. And these are skills that gaming would be able to explore, he says. So leading on to the similar kind of thought, I have this question for you, Ms. Renita. Video games can improve mental skills. Is that really a fact?
Yes, I've been poring over all the possible studies done, and there are a lot of published studies that say that what happens is when you're video gaming, it actually provides small amounts of information over a period, which actually improves metacognition in a child, which is the ability to think about your own thinking. So you are playing this game and you think, okay, how do I do this? How do I get to the next level? So you're making small decisions there. And through making those small decisions, you are getting more and more engaged in learning. So simple decisions, lead to the formulation of complex strategies as the game evolves. Yes, because you're going from a lower level to a higher one. They have been found to improve cognitive functions like memory, reasoning, have the potential to reverse age-related brain function problems, and also improve memory. What I also came across, which was really, really very interesting, and I need just a minute to tell you about this. 9.73% of children with ADHD reported a lasting improvement in addition after regularly playing games that were designed for them. And I thought that that was something marvelous.
Clearly making new connections in the brain.
Right. So it's actually firing a child's synapses to make connections.
Yes, and I think that's at the end of it what we are trying to achieve as educators. We have moved off from knowledge-based education in any case, and we're looking at creating learning skills in students, and that's what you are trying to drive at. I seem to have missed Ms. Aditi in her opening statement. I'm not sure how much of what she thought she would like to deliver is already covered, but nevertheless, I'm so sorry about that.
I think it's a great advantage because I got to hear everyone's thoughts, and now I get to put mine together. Thank you so much, ma'am. I won't go back to intro, of course, but I think what Sir said is what is the most relatable in the conversation here. Teach the way they want to learn. And we cannot ignore that our children think and learn very differently today. And if, Sir did mention that games have always existed and play has always existed, but gaming specifically in the digital context is something that is growing rapidly now, and there is a lot that we can do with it. Of course, for me, as we discussed, my thoughts revolve more around how do we actually bring it into the classrooms and to how many schools and how far and wide across the nation. And that's something we can discuss at one point.
Because I'm sure that's something that everybody is very keen on. How do we bring it into the classroom? I'll come back to that a little later with you, Ms. Aditi. May I go on to Ms. Vandana Arora? My question to you is, what do you feel, Is there a flip side to this whole thing, gaming in classrooms? Do you feel you have a perspective on that?
Definitely. I believe any system we introduce in terms of raising human beings always have other side. You have pros and cons of everything. So though I do believe gaming is the way forward and we are including these in our schools, it's very important for us to keep in mind 4 important aspects related to it. 1, how much time are we devoting to it in our classroom? Second, how age-appropriate gaming is being brought in the classroom, because it's important for us to see, are we introducing it too early or are we introducing it too late? Furthermore, it's important how we are training our teachers to use it in the classroom, because we all know when it's interesting, it can be addictive. So our children who are going to be really interested into games and want to be interested to learn more could only learn, might not learn how to apply it further, and might not focus on how they need to be active through their bodies. It's natural. And lastly, how are we communicating it to other stakeholders? That means our parents. How are we guiding them into utilizing these learning-based platforms at home and making sure that home stays a holistic space to learn the creative angles, to be physically active, to be engaging with the community? I think if we manage all these, then definitely gaming would give us the maximum benefit. Otherwise, it might be risky.
Quite true. Typically, you know how children are. You get them in front of a gadget, and then they're hooked on there with the rapt attention that you would expect to have had in your classroom. So she brought up a very important point of how much time. And of course, it extends to how much time on the home front too. Our biggest problem today is monitoring on the home front and, guidelines on the home front with parents working. We also had parents working, but life wasn't so difficult those days. I can see Ms. Gayethri Devi nodding her head, but I'm sure she has a point of view there. We'll come right back once we finish our set of questions for the panelists to add on to any of the questions that we've spoken about before we throw open the floor to the audience. I have this question back to you, Ms. Aditi, now. Back to where we were. Virtual reality has a potential to revolutionize the gaming industry by immersing players in a fully interactive and realistic digital world. How accessible is VR, AI, etc., to schools across the spectrum in terms of affordability, accessibility? And my second part of the question is, how easy is it for a teacher to adapt to these kind of changes?
So I'll go backwards on your question. Let's start with the teacher. And there's so much for our teachers to do in a classroom. So many targets, so many goals, complete the syllabi, etc., that they have to pick their battles. And I think that the shift is coming, but not as quickly as the shift is coming in the children. The adults are a few steps behind.
Can I just stop you here? A lot of times teachers have to follow certain systems, right? And so when they pick their battles, don't their appraisals get marked at the lowest level?
Absolutely, absolutely. And a 45-minute session, you can either finish the notebooks, target the reading and writing skills, or let them play a game or whatever. And how do you make an amalgam of all three, right? And that's the challenge of the teacher. The empowerment must come, of course, from the highest levels, where we say it's all right, do what you think is best, because I do believe that the best approach right now would be whatever it takes. There is this perpetual tug of war of how do we pull our kids out of the screen. I think the question should be, how do we enable our kids to be more productive with the screen? Because the screen is not going away.
tying back to what Ms. Vandana Arora just
Exactly,
spoke about.
exactly. And
Are they imbibing the skills while they are there?
so then, is it productive work, or I think somebody else said, how are we making sure it's age appropriate, learning appropriate? Whatever you're doing, what are you learning from it? And that's where the adults come in. Apart from that, accessibility, our school is 115 years old and it's up in the mountains in Maharashtra, so we know the struggles with accessibility, and it's not easy. Building a VR lab or even a good quality IT lab at schools across the country is not easily accessible yet. And I think that's a question more privileged schools like ours should ask: what can we do to bring it into our environment, not just our own schools, but the schools near us, around us. Maybe give access to our labs for teachers and students of less privileged schools, maybe even give training. Because we know we're doing it with our teachers, right? We're empowering our teachers, we're telling them, yes, bring the gaming into the classroom and don't worry about the reading and writing, do that twice a week and do this twice a week or whatever. But then that doesn't exist everywhere. And I think it's up to us to go in there and say, hey, come on board. It's working for us. Maybe it'll work for you as well. It's a very vague thing right now, but it always takes the first step. And
So have you actually tried a bit of it in your school?
yes, so we are trying to bring in teachers and students from the local ZB schools and stuff to come and do trainings with us and bring devices to them. And it is helping because again, a child, as Sir said, may not be able to do multiplications easily on paper, but you show it to them through a game, show it to them through more tangible learning resources, and they might just get it. So you don't, and also it's not just accessibility. Now, for example, with VR, right? Kids across the country are not going to be able to go to the fancy museums or aquariums. But if we bring the VR lab to them, they'll at least be able to experience it. So it's a long way to go, but there's a start.
So that's part of what NEP talks about, learning communities where schools collaborate with resources for learning mutually. I think that's a great thing to do. And like you said, a child who can't do multiplication, I'm just thinking of it, I'm actually visualizing this. He can't do the multiplication on paper, but he really knows that one of the shooters can shoot 2 people at a time. He knows that a whole army can be shot by so many shooters on the side. And there goes his multiplication is in place. Lovely. Thank you so much, Ms. Aditi. May I go on to Ms. Lavanya? How does gaming affect learning and academic success? Could you suggest how gaming can be used in classrooms? I mean, if I'm here, I'm asking you, can you specifically point out areas in the classroom where we can use gaming?
What I would like to tell, the educational games in classroom brings in some kind of engagement among the students, which will allow them to participate, which in turn will motivate the students. At the same time, when you engage them, allow them to participate, there is teamwork. With the teamwork, they will be able to learn better. Better learners they will be. This is what I feel. And one more thing I would like to tell, the cognitive skills will be developed in this way of using games in the education. And even inclusiveness for the disabled children, or maybe with various, I don't want to use the word ADHD or slow learners, but there also this will surely help because the levels of learning is different in a classroom. When we are taking all the children on the same page, on the same platform, this gaming will surely help us to teach the students at their own pace so that they will not have any kind of feeling or maybe inferiority complex in slow learners. This is one more thing. And one more thing what I felt, the video games, maybe we call it gaming, that will help for the improvement of the brain, the gray matter, We all know gray matter controls the brain, the muscles, and cognitive skills also. This is also one thing what I would like to mention. Above all, we have all come on to the online sessions. So naturally, using games, we can always achieve, maybe we can reach our goals to teach the children in a better way. At the same time, maybe we need parent support also. Parental support is very important because the screen time, the word screen time is very, very common. We force them to come on the screen. Now we have come back and we say don't use the mobile devices. So the balance is very, very important. As a school, if we can balance that, we will be able to achieve a lot using gaming as a tool in education. Thank you.
I'll just add on another question to this, Miss Lavanya. What age do you think we can start gaming in school?
The
We
age.
weren't talking of technological, the digital part of gaming.
See, I feel like grades 5 above, they will be able to do it because now when we see the children in preschool also, they're able to use the mobile devices.
Yeah.
They know better than us. That is one thing. And maybe to learn math, physics, and coding and all that, this gaming will surely help us.
I also feel that gaming, she brought in a very important point of inclusiveness. So critical in a classroom when everybody's on the same platform, when they are gaming together. So teamwork, gaming can be a team exercise rather than an individual exercise. So we don't need to have large exotic labs. We can have a few computers, a few display monitors for a small group of children playing together, which makes learning in that group high. It also comes down to the point of comprehension in English being learned in such a way.
Yes.
Because children, to understand the game, need to comprehend the instructions and they talk to each other about it. I hope all
Can-
of you are in sync with
Can
that.
I add to that? Even studies reveal that attention span also increases because of this gaming in education. And we are into this virtual reality and AI. I'm very sure that gaming will surely help us to move forward for our tech-savvy children.
Do you think that the smaller ones, and this is, I'm opening it up to any of you speakers here, Ms. Lavanya feels grade 5 and upwards are the best age group for gaming. Do you think smaller ones could be also part of this whole exercise of gaming in classrooms? No, no, says Ms. Aditi very strongly. Yes, of course.
In all honesty, see, the knowledge of how to gamify an activity in accordance with the specifics of educational goals is what, Aditi was also mentioning. Those things have not yet been arrived at. There is a lot of research going on, maybe not really in the Indian context. There were hardly any studies which popped up. But all over the world, people are like studying this on a war footing, and they believe that if we could come up with games at different levels, then it could be introduced to younger children as well. How young a child could be is not been proven conclusively, but really looking at the way our very young children can use tech these days, perhaps we are kind of fooling ourselves when we say that they should wait till 5th or 6th grade.
I can tell because why I felt like up from maybe 10 years or something like that. We should allow the little ones to play in the grounds, learn better there, then come back to the screen. This is what my idea was.
Agree.
Sorry, I'm going to, since I'm contradicting, I would say that it's not specifically chronological age, but is the child and the child's brain ready? Because while we are talking about better attention spans, there is also a lot of research saying that the screens are causing a loss in attention.
Yes.
And so when we say games, yes, of course, games are always a part of our learning. Digital gaming, it's up to the adults in the room, I think, to decide whether the children in your room or in your home are mentally, socially, physically ready to have a certain amount of exposure and how much. And I think that's very subjective. It's very subjective. For some kids, we want to keep them away, and for some kids, it's the best way to learn.
Yes.
I think the key point is the effect on the mental ability of a child, which we have to be, as adults, being very, very off. We're running short of time. I don't want to miss this opportunity of asking this question to Ms. Gayethri Devi. NEP promotes digital learning. It's all over NEP. Does digital learning aid and support gaming and vice versa? I think we're going back in a loop, but that will also give you an opportunity to speak about what we were just discussing.
Yes. So I'm sure all of us in the room are aware that NEP 2020 has been launched in our wonderful country, and each state is taking its time to ensure its implementation. So one of the key factors of national education policy is ensuring that the change in the curriculum is more focused on hands-on learning. So when we talk about hands-on learning, it is an integral part of gaming. Now, in the initial part of my talk, we did talk about the different kinds of gaming structures that we have in school. One could be outdoor, one could be indoor, and one could be the digital form of gaming in our computer labs. But what is very, very important, especially with regard to the national education policy, when we are talking about numeracy, literacy aspects, giving a lot of emphasis of literacy and numeracy in the foundation years, gaming, again, it depends on in what perspective are we understanding gaming today. Gaming is not something, as what I have understood, is not something that we use a gadget or a device to have gaming in our curriculum. Many of the preschools here today this morning have got awards, and I'm sure gaming is one of the integral part of the curriculum, and it starts at a very young age. Anything to do with competition, we do teach children competition at young age. In the Montessori method or in the normal kindergarten method, differentiation between colors, differentiation between big and small. You know, there are many activities that children have, and I think we can club any kind of a competition that is beyond one child as a form of gaming. That gaming also gives a lot of variation from simple to complex gaming, and children definitely learn better when there is competition, when there is anything to do away from scribbling, holding the pencil, writing. So any hands-on experience, and this definitely, I'm sure all of you know that NEP focuses on hands-on experiential learning, and gaming is an integral part of it.
Thank you, Ms. Gayethri Devi. That is key to the whole learning here. Gaming does, give the child experiential learning, and I think each of us spoke about it in different ways. Ms. Aditi spoke about how planetariums, aquariums, certain aspects of learning is not available for every child, or there's not accessible to every child, and gaming could be one part of it. I think I'm seeing those boards saying time up, but quickly before we close the panel, may I ask if any audience would like to address a question to any of the panelists here? Yes, please. Can we have a mic there? Right here.
Hello. Good morning, all of you. My question may not be able to be digested by all the preschool owners specifically. My question is, do you think that preschooling at this age, 3, 4, 5 years, is really needed? Don't you think that?
Okay, so this is not, we are going away from the topic. We're talking about gaming.
Okay, no, I'm touching gamification part.
Sorry.
So you are talking about gamification in preschool. Don't you think that they should learn from home? The best way to use these games is their neighboring areas around house. Along with their parents, neighboring kids, they can explore using all the resources in and around their houses. In olden days, there were no preschools. Like, for example, I did not go to any preschool. Even I did not send my children also to but they are all excelling in life. So instead of giving stress to these children in the preschools, in preschools also I have seen they have particular curriculum, they have even assessments. So I don't think that these preschools, in the giving gamification in the schools, the best place to give these opportunities is at home, and they should enjoy their childhood at home with their parents and explore their resources in and around their house.
Thank you.
That's my opinion.
So that was
Thank you
quite
so
an
much.
explosive question, and especially when the audience is largely preschool educators. Ms. Gayethri Devi would like to take that question, if it's okay with the rest of you.
Madam, we should understand the kind of education system that we have in our country and overseas. When you look at the models overseas, homeschooling is an integral part. Today in our country, NIOS is taking a very, very integral platform in the education background. Coming back to national education policy, the foundation year is for 5 years. And the first 5 years start when a child is 3 years old. Until today, our country was known for education from 6 years and above. But under the national education policy, for the first time in the history of our country, kindergarten is included as a foundation level learning. All right? So when the children come to school at age 3, 4, 5 are kindergarten years, and standard 1 and standard 2 is also included into the foundation years of learning. So now it is for the parent, the home setup, whether it's a joint family, nuclear family, you have the time. It has been very wonderful that some of them have given up their careers to be with their children, fair enough, but there are some who wouldn't be able to do it. That's how we have so many preschools in our country. And probably the preschool owners and in charges would be able to tell you how socializing is an integral part of one's growing up years. And socializing, gaming, playing with each other, especially of their age group, definitely helps a child mold or cross certain milestones that would be required in each of their growing up years.
The key being that today we are no longer large joint families. We are nuclear families. Yes, Ms. Aditi.
At the risk of also giving advice to preschool owners here, and no, we don't run a preschool, we're a residential school, so we start at age 5, where they are in residential at 5 and 6 years of age. There is a reason for it. There are reasons why the parents cannot keep them at home. It's not safe, or they don't have the time. Putting that aside, the purpose of preschool or early years, even up to grade 2 and 3, is not or should not be academic work. The purpose should be core skills, social skills, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, play, language, communication, sharing. These are the things that should be focused on, and if a school or a teacher does decide to use any form of play or games, that should be the end goal or end purpose, and not ABC Sikha ke nahi. This is a very strong belief that I personally have, having
And I
3
think
kids
that's
of my
very
own.
clearly, listed out
Yes,
in the
in the NEP as well, including the mother language, that
Absolutely.
do it in the language that they understand, do it in a way that they can relate to.
So since we are running out of time, and yet we have so much to discuss, I'm sure the panel can meet outside and continue our discussion. But thank you so much, audience, to bring this to a close. Gaming is essential for certain critical aspects of self-development, especially critical thinking, experiential learning for students, but it has to be timed, it has to have parental consent, it has to have an adult supervision very clearly. And it has to be very well planned, therefore, so that it doesn't become an addiction by itself. Thank you very much for being an audience to us, and thank you to each of you panelists for being here, for being accommodative of each other, and of course it's a very large panel, so it's difficult to conclude in 1/2 hour that we have been given. Thank you, Education Today, for the opportunity to meet, for hosting this session, and of course for all of us for being able to discuss this topic. Thank you so much.
Well, that was indeed a very insightful discussion. Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, all the panelists. I would now request Mr. Anil Sharma to please join us on stage to felicitate the panelists. We would have loved to take more questions, but we are slightly time bound. We can always chat over lunch or a cup of coffee as well.
Can we have Mr. Yogendra Patidhar, Director Sivom, on stage to felicitate our guests? A round
Let's
of
hear it,
applause.
ladies and gentlemen, for all the panelists, for taking the time and having an insightful discussion.
May I request all the panelists to take their seats. May I also request Mr. Anil Sharma and Mr. Yogendra Patidhar to stay on stage to give away the next set of awards.